Okay. Can everyone see? Uh-oh. Let me expand this. Wait a minute. Let me see. Hold on here. Okay, can everyone see my screen? I want to make sure it's big.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I can.
All right. Okay. Thank you everyone for attending our Borough Council meeting today. It's June 2nd, 6:30 p.m. And I call this meeting to order. I'm going to read the statement, public open meeting statement. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, notice of this meeting was posted on the Borough of Penns Grove Municipal Bulletin Board, designed for that purpose. Notice was also posted on the Borough of Penns Grove website. Notice was emailed to the official newspaper as provided by resolution. So now we'll go ahead and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll lead it. I pledge of allegiance
to the flag
under the United States of America
and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice
for all. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, as everyone's aware, we are now in a time where we think about our health and we think about safety. And I would like our municipal clerk to just give the invocation as she usually does. So if we can bow our heads and while she does.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to allow us to assemble together, to come together in this manner, Father, and still hold our meetings. And Father, we pray that this governing body can come together as one so that your will can be done. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, please do roll call.
Mr. Burkute? Ms. Mincy?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Pasquale?
Here.
Ms. Scott? Mr. Washington?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, next we will move into the minutes from May 11th of 2020 that we had a special meeting. So we'll approve these minutes from this meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for May 11th special meeting?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against, say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Motion approved. Next, we'll move
Jesus.
Next, we'll move into the budget. And before we do that, Mr. Lab, I would like you to explain the budget resolution. And just to be clear so everyone understands, this is not a resolution to raise taxes or anything like that. We will have a budget hearing immediately after the vote for this motion, and we will open that up to the public if you have any questions. Mr. Lab, you have the floor. Excuse me. Mr. Lab, are you there? I don't know if you're trying to.
Yeah, I see he's there.
Mr. Lab?
Yeah, I'm not hearing him.
Yeah, I see his,
Yeah, his video or his voice was off.
yeah. I think he's having some technical difficulties, it looks like.
That's usually me.
Okay. All right, we'll give him another minute to come back, but just to Let's see, is that him? Okay. All right. Well, this is a resolution. This is 2020-2, and this is a resolution for calendar year 2020, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. So I'll just read the first couple of lines. Whereas the local government cap law, NJSA 40A:4-45.1 ET SEQ, provides that in the preparation of its annual budget, a municipality shall limit any increase in said budget up to 2.5% unless authorized by ordinance, to increase it to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriations, subject to certain exceptions. What I really would like for Mr. Lab to do is just to elaborate on this ordinance just a little, because when I first looked at it, I didn't understand it, and I was thinking we are increasing property taxes to 3.5%. So I kind of had a little conniption about that, but I was wrong. So I wanted him to explain to you what this really means.
He was trying, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, he was trying to reach me, and then I tried calling him back, so he must be having problems.
Okay.
But I do know that we need to, the way everything is set up, budget, oh, here he goes now. Okay. Yes.
Is he communicating with you, Madam Clerk?
Okay, so I'm going to let Steve speak through my phone. He's having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
It might be a little feedback. Okay, go ahead, Steve. We're at the 2020 cap bank ordinance. 2020-2.
Yes. What this ordinance does, it allows the municipality to increase its cap appropriations from 2% to 3.5%, and more importantly, it allows us to bank 2 years worth of appropriations. So this does not increase local taxes. This gives us a mechanism to establish a cap bank for 2 years. So for instance, say the borough would have a windfall of budgetary funds, and we would want to do something within the budget. With the excess cap that we bank 2 years, we would not have to get state approval. This is something that a lot of municipalities do every year. They increase it and they just have a bank for 2 years. For budget appropriations.
Okay. Are there any questions from council?
I was just going to say, Steve's been pretty much doing this every year that I've been on council. So it's becoming a pretty mundane thing.
And to give an example, with our introduced 2020 budget, we're 106,000 under the 2% cap levy. So we have to have a public hearing on this and adopt it prior to the public hearing on the 2002 municipal budget.
Okay. Any other questions from council? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Ma'am, we need to do motion to open to the public. This is a public hearing.
Before we
Yes.
approve it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion to open to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any questions from the public? And if you're speaking, you'll have to take your phone off of mute or your computer off of mute, okay? Okay. It appears we have no questions from the public. So we will now have the budget hearing. Well, do I need to close this to the public?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion to close?
Can I have
Second.
a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved to close. Okay, so now we'll move into the budget hearing. Before we move into it, Mr. Telsey or either Mr. Lab, could you briefly explain why this hearing is required so that the public will understand why we need to do this hearing?
Ms. Mayor, I apologize. On the ordinance that they just closed to the public, they now need to adopt that ordinance.
Okay,
And then we'll go to the budget hearing.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, is there a motion to approve? Hold on, Mark, I'm the facilitator. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And now do a roll
Can I have a
call.
roll call? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Mr. Burkett? Unmute Mr. Burkett. We're taking a roll call on the ordinance. Mr. Burkett, in agreement, wave your hand. Okay, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
It's adopted.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so now Mr. Telsey or Mr. Lab can briefly explain why this hearing is required.
Well, I can answer that. When we're introducing our budget, under statute, we're required to do it by way of public hearing. It's an opportunity for the public to comment with regard to what the proposed budget is. So this is a statutory requirement. What we've been doing since we you do have state aid is the procedure that's outlined in number 9 of the agenda, where we do have the opportunity to discuss it amongst ourselves as a council and a governing body. We listen to public comment, but then we table the budget hearing until such time as Steve gets final numbers from the state with respect to state aid. So really what you're going to be doing is you're going to be discussing the budget, you're going to be hearing public comment on the budget, but you're not going to be taking any further action on the budget. That's the procedure, that's why we do it. If Steve has anything more to add to that, and I'll ask him to do that, although I know he's having some troubles today.
Yeah.
He's here. I got him on myself.
Okay.
Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah, out of it, all the points on the process that we have, you open up for public hearing. Public has input and discussion of the budget, and council would table it because we would have to wait for a transitional aid figure.
Okay. Go back and table that.
Well, you're good through the processes that's listed on your agenda, discussion, some public, open to the public, close to the public, and then motion to table.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Steve.
Using 85% of the prior aid award. This would result in a 0.029 cent increase on an average home of $87,000. This would translate to an increase of $25.09 per year. on an average assessed house. The overall is a 1.26% increase over last year's property tax rate. So with this introduced budget, as it stands, it's a 0.029 cent increase. We looked at line items with our budget meetings. We only increased the line items that were necessary to increase. I think we have a good working budget. Contingent on what happens with COVID-19, there might have to be some adjustments concerning transitional aid. I've been keeping a status on collection of taxes. We would have a better picture at the end of June where we stand. Currently, we're $78,000 less than last year at the same time, but we did do the resolution to extend the grace period.
Is that it, Steve?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. All right. Is there anything else we need to do with this budget hearing, with this resolution? Or are we done? We can move on to committee reports.
Yeah, we just need to open it up for public comment or questions.
I think you were, unless anybody from the governing body wants to have discussion first.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the governing body? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll say something before we go on. I was just going to say it's advantageous for the borough to keep its taxes at zero or decreasing to make the town more valuable, so we can get more residents to come into the town. That was all. Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome. All right. Motion to open to public comment.
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion approved to open to the for public comment. Not sure what you were trying to say. Okay, so we're open up for public comment. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments? If you
Yes,
do,
Mayor and Council. This is Ed Sazdelli, your state monitor. Can you hear me?
yes, I can. Hello, how are you?
Good evening,
Thank you for joining
everyone.
our meeting.
Good evening.
I'm just listening. I'm just listening. But I wanted to say I was eating dinner. I would have spoke up on the cap waiver. You definitely want to approve the cap waiver because you're banking cap for the future. So that was a smart thing to do. And as far as the introduction of the budget, the only thing I wanted to add to what Adam already said about the process is that just to remind council and to point out to council that if you didn't have the transitional aid, the budget of the $550,000, the budget you'd be introducing tonight would be 26 cents higher on the average resident. So that's the value of applying for the transitional aid and the wisdom of the council to participate in the program and do that, because without it, you'd be voting on a budget that was 26 cents higher. I don't have a question. That was my only comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sazdelli. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? If so, please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Going once, going twice. Okay. I'd like to make request a motion to close to public comment.
Motion to close.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve to close the public comment. Okay. Now we'll move on to a motion to table. May I have a motion to table?
Motion to table?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bakute? Ms. Mincy?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yes.
Mr. Washington?
Yes.
Mr. Bakute?
Madam Clerk, can he wave his hand?
I can't even see him now. I don't know if he's still connected.
Yeah.
I can see him.
Can you?
Yeah.
His mic is on.
Oh, there you go. Hi, he's Mike. We're calling the roll on the tabling of the budget.
Now it's off.
You were on. You're good? Okay. That was a yes.
All right. Okay, motion approved to table it. All right. Now we move on to committee reports. Each member of council is responsible for oversight of a department. So this evening, we're going to start with buildings and grounds, and we'll start with Mr. Pasquale. Councilman Pasquale, are you ready to do your report, please? Give your report.
Yes. I just have a few items. The first is I've gotten most of the grass cutting equipment repaired, and it's now being used to cut the 89 abandoned properties in Pennsgrove. They're working on the biggest ones right now because we still have to purchase a walk behind mower. But we got most of the other equipment up to date and it's working. The second item is I've had a couple people board up 2 houses in Pennsgrove, and we, conveyed that to the police department that if they have to go into any houses and find vagrants or homeless people, that we need to try to get them out so we can board up the houses and they can possibly go to shelters. I haven't identified a shelter yet, but I'm hoping to do that. Maybe the police have a shelter that they use all the time. And just a third item is, well, for the coronavirus, we got the carpets cleaned in the Borough Hall and sprayed and disinfected for the non-police side. And I've been trying to get some roof repairs done, but that has been really slow. I've gotten 3 or 4 estimates, but no one wants to come out and do the job. I've been pushing them pretty hard too. And the fourth item is I've been working with a couple individuals to clean up the Public Works building, which the grass cutters use, and get it functional so it can be used for other activities. And we have some filing cabinets I still have to get rid of. And that's where I'm stacking up all the computers for an individual company to pick up and possibly get money for them, because Mike sent me a letter about a company that would pay us to take our old computers, which if that works out will be fantastic. If not, we'll have to pay about $125 to pick them all up. So I kind of stopped working on the computers because the grass cutting was so it was so necessary to work on. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions for you, Councilman Pasquale. When you say you had a couple people boarded up, what does that mean? Like, can you?
Oh, I had a couple properties boarded up, 41 East Pittman Street. There were some vagrants in there. Police have gone in there various times, and we're concerned about their safety going in inside of buildings. So we actually had 2x4s put across the doors and bolts put through them. So you almost have to use a chainsaw to to open up the doors. And then there was another one at 159.5 East Main Street that's been boarded up. I'm sure as we, go through the summer that we're going to have to board up other houses that are being occupied by homeless people, because they're going from the houses we're boarding up to other houses that they can break into in Penns Grove. So that's going to be a continuous thing probably throughout the summer, and maybe we can get pretty secure by the end of the summer with the police referring us to various properties, and the code enforcement officer and the housing officer and whoever else sees a house or a building that should be boarded up.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
A little. I have more questions for you.
Okay.
So there's over 20 properties that need to be boarded up, right?
I don't know how many there actually are. I had 2 of them boarded up the last 2 weeks, but
Okay.
I'm sure there's more properties that have to be done.
Okay. How does this interact with our agreement with Carney's Point?
Well, to my knowledge, they haven't been boarding up houses. So, the police have been requesting of me and the housing officers, and most of the time they're abandoned houses owned by Penns Grove. So we're kind of responsible for them.
Okay. And who paid these folks to board up these houses? Who paid these folks?
Penns Grove's been paying them. I've got a couple contractors to do them. I boarded up one place, but I've been trying to get a person that's pretty inexpensive to board them up.
Okay. I wanted to point out that it's important that if anyone is hired for anything, it goes through the administration so that we can be sure it follows bidding and professional service laws. That's one request that I have. And then
I do give the estimates to Steve, but I'm not sure what else I have to do.
Okay.
I'm concerned to try to keep the cost down because I know we have this coronavirus problem, and we don't know, how our incoming money is going to be. So.
Okay.
I have a question if you're done.
Unless you had another question.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I have a question for Lou. You mentioned that you're cutting that our township has been cutting 89 abandoned properties. Are those all borough-owned properties?
Yes, I got a list from Jennifer at the tax office, and the 3 individuals have been looking at the properties and seeing what's got to be cut. There are a couple things that we might have to check out with Adam to make sure they are borough properties. But to my knowledge, I told him just cut borough properties, nothing else, unless it was emergency someplace, or if we have to cut a non-borough property and then we put a lien against their house or send them a bill.
Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
All right. Motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Moving on to general government. Councilman Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I don't really have a report, just a few things. First, I want to congratulate Sharon for completing her CEU seminars for her research renewal. And also,
Thank you.
thank Ms. Williams for holding down the office while Kayla is out. And for those who don't know, Kayla did have her baby, healthy baby, so we want to congratulate her as well.
Oh, great.
Also, I just want to thank Tracy, our police clerk. She has been maintaining the website since the pandemic has been going on. And so I just wanted to let Mayor and Council be aware of that as well. I'm in the process of meeting with her to figure out the responsibilities of the three that's splitting the website, to see how we can kind of like narrow down so others can have more time to focus on their department. But that's another situation for another meeting. Also, I wanted to, let me see, I wrote myself some notes here. That's all I have. Everything else will be under new business. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Washington, can you please work with me and Ms. Sharon Williams so that we can have a smooth transition to open the Borough Hall again? Because I know it'll be opening again pretty soon, so we're going to need to work on opening that up, and we'll need a date to share with the public, et cetera, things like that. So can you work with Sharon and I to do that, please?
Just let me know when you're ready to meet and discuss it, and we can do that. We can move forward with that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, let me scroll down. Okay. Next, we have housing and zoning. That's Councilwoman Debbie Scott. Is she, Debbie, are you present yet, or did she log on or no? Okay. All right, we'll move on to Parks and Recreation and Board of Health.
You have to unmute, Mr. Mike.
See if I can help him unmute. Councilmember Coot. Yeah, your reception is still bad. We're not able to hear you. How about who can help Councilmember Coot? He can call you on your cell phone. You can share it to the screen with everyone.
I'm going to try calling.
Okay. Councilmember Coot, Carol's going to give you a call so that we can hear you clearly.
I'm unable to answer the phone at this time.
No, he has his phone off.
Yeah.
Councilmember Coot, Ms. Carol's going to give you a call, so answer your cell phone because we can't hear you through your computer. Your reception's bad. So answer your cell phone. Carol's going to give you a call.
Okay, move on while I try to call him again.
Okay, we'll come back to Councilmember Coot's report for Parks and Recreation and Board of Health. So we'll move on to Councilman Oliver for Public Works, Streets and Roads.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I typically don't have a report because there's not really a lot of data. I think of a report as something that has data and factual information. I deal more on a day-to-day basis with streets and road problems and signage and and that kind of thing. So I typically don't report that stuff, but I'm getting some heat about not having a report. So from now on, I will have something to say. It won't be a report, but it will have some information. So here's what I have so far. Last week, Miss Mincy advised me that somebody told her about a broken storm grate on Griffith Street. I called the township street department, and they said that they would have it looked at since it was a safety issue. I called Joe at the street department back a couple of days later, and he said that they did look at it and that they're going to have to order a new one. I'm going to go down there tomorrow to make sure it's taped off or blocked off. Have you seen anything there for being blocked off?
No, I haven't been over there since.
Okay. The other thing is I need to get Steve to write a purchase order to purchase more trash receptacles down at the Riverwalk. Those trash cans that we purchased are overflowing almost every week. So if we could I can get Steve to buy a couple more trash receptacles, it might make a difference. It's our responsibility to provide those there. I called the street department, and they're not their trash cans. They're trash cans that are mounted and they're permanent. They're permanent down there. They're something that we purchased. There's a broken street sign at Maple Avenue and Broad Street that a car hit, and I had the street department pick up the broken sign. They're going to replace the pole and put it back on. There's also a need for some more pothole repair. I contacted the street department about that, and they ran out of road patch. They're going to get more in and continue that effort. And one more thing, a couple weeks ago, I forwarded an email to Sharon and the mayor. Triad has some grants that they can get for some more street work. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Oliver. I do have a question and a request. There have been some questions about speed traps here in town, and I wanted you to look into where they should go. Can you do that?
I can take care of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I appreciate that. There was a hit and run of a resident last week on Delaware Avenue.
Okay, I'll get with the police department, and we'll get that taken care of, and I'll get back to you with what we figured out.
Okay, and then also in terms of reports, thank you for sharing what you talked about the potholes. Your report can include like information about potholes, like how many, do we have everything we need? It can also include things about water infrastructure and board ups, and then also we need some ideas about what we can do to improve our agreements with Harness Point. So could you assist with that as well?
Yes, currently we're working off the original contract. We can probably relook at that as a committee, as a street department committee, and see if there's any recommendations for redoing that contract or upgrading it somehow, and we'll get back to you with what we advise.
Okay, that'll work. We can look at that as a committee as a whole, so that'll work.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you for your report.
Mr. Councilman Oliver, I'm sorry, Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
Who makes the decision on the speed limits of the street? Is that state or is that borough?
There's various ordinances. If there's state roads, it's state or county ordinances, and if it's borough properties, borough streets, it's borough ordinances.
The reason why I ask is because here on Penn Street, where I live, I see it with some new signs posted that says 25 miles an hour. On this tight street, one-way street, double-sided park, that's extremely too fast. I even tried it one day, and it's extremely too fast. I mean, it's bad enough that they're going. I mean, the cars are getting side swipes, mirrors are getting kidnapped every day. I think I don't know who dictates the speed limit, but if we can look into that, I think that should be at least 15 miles an hour on that one-way street. 25 is extremely too fast, and it's a lot of kids on.
Yeah. Carl, thank you. I'll add that to the list when I talk to the police department about the speed limit signs and bring that up as an issue, especially for Penn Street and any other street that's like that. Yeah, I agree. 25 is way too fast.
Oh my God!
It should probably be 15 or 10.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
I'll add that to the list.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to schedule a meeting for the committee as a whole to address the contract with Carnes Point. Can we meet in 2 weeks?
Yes,
We'll figure out a date. Would that work for everyone to have a meeting in 2 weeks?
that's fine with me.
Okay.
So if it's the committee as a whole, you're gonna have to advertise the meeting and
Okay.
all that.
Okay.
Is that an entire council meeting or just a public works department or committee?
Mayor,
Yeah, a committee meeting. Just a committee meeting just to go over the contract for
Okay,
Carnes Point.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
So
then
then
if
you-
it's just gonna be a committee, then you don't need to advertise. And I thought you were asked for the whole council. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Before we go on, Mayor, can I ask Mark or add a couple things?
Sure.
One, I suggested to the police chief that we get a couple of these solar panels that have the speed limit flashing when a car goes down the street too fast, or if they're the correct speed, it'll give the speed that the car is going. They're only like I don't know, a foot or two in diameter, and you can put them up on the poles. That might help somewhat. We could probably use them on Broad Street and a couple other streets too, besides Delaware Avenue. I know the buses go through Delaware Avenue pretty fast. And the other thing was, I don't know if anything's happening with the street sweeper, but this is a good time of the year for.
Yeah, we'll move into that. We're gonna
Okay.
discuss that. But in terms of this discussion, we'll save this discussion, the long discussions for our meeting. Okay, so we don't want to have that in between meetings right now. So we can set up something via email or we can give each other a call or something like that. Set it up.
Yeah, I was just adding those a couple suggestions. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving into public safety. Councilwoman Mincy.
thank you, Mayor. I want to start off with, since we were talking about Delaware Avenue. I called the county after the accident on Delaware Avenue, and they sent out Mr. Carney, I don't even know what his title is, to talk to me about the street. And we talked about the speed limit. He said they would have to put a strip down and it would stay down so many days and it would monitor the speed limit. Then they would send it to the state and they would talk about reducing it. He said in the meantime, they could put that, that little machine thing they put out there to help slow down the traffic on that street. And I talked to him about speed traps. So he said, I probably had talked to the police department about that, which I did. Also, I talked to him since I had him here. 6 streets in Pennsboro belong to the county. So I talked to him about sweeping their streets. And they said they don't have a sweeper, but his boss told him that whatever we needed. So they're going to rent a sweeper. I don't know when yet, but they're going to rent a sweeper, at least do their streets. So we have been having conversation about the speed limit on Delaware Avenue. Not only that one, I've talked to the chief about the speed limit, Mr. Washington, on Penn Street and some of these other streets, because I think because people realize there's nobody out there that they can fly. And Penn Street is really terrible. So we did talk about setting up speed traps and having the cops out. We got to reduce the speed limit before somebody get hurt.
Yeah, thanks. Terrible.
Yeah, because I was down there one day and I thought they was going to run into the back of me because they fly. Also,
Yeah.
Mr. Pasquale, I saw that sign you were talking about. Pennsville have them. And I took a picture and I sent it to the chief. So we have talked about those speed limit signs that hang up on a pole. Pennsville, somebody donated to them. I don't know what they cost, but they were donated to Pennsville. But we have talked about that also. I have,
When you're talking about in Pennsville, they actually have flashing lights there too, where you can cross, where the cars have to actually stop, and they have flashing lights where you can get across the street when it's like 30 or 40 miles an hour. They're
well,
pretty
the one
nice,
I
so
saw-
slow 'em.
the one I saw was just the one you hung up, that you hang on the wall. I have Debbie Ashcraft's report for the ambulance. Okay. Total calls for 2020 is 370. Calls from March 1st to May 31st is 240.
Miss Carol, before you move into Debbie Ashcraft, can we, we're not on that part yet. We didn't move into department reports yet. So can you wait until we move?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, let me go back to this.
Okay.
I want to give, I'm gonna say shout out to some people. And I know it's more people, but these people I know. Down at the Riverwalk, we have had some citizens cleaning up down there. Carol Millis and her son Andy, they cleaned it off, they pulled the weeds and everything, and been keeping it clean. The neighbor at the corner of Delaware and Maine, Jeremy and his girlfriend Venus, they cut some of the grass up there. So there's people who's trying to help out. There's also this guy, I don't know his real name, but his company is called Moe's Does It All. He cut grass on the corner of Penn Street, that house that's right behind the old West Pharmacy store, that White House. He went on Facebook one day and was trying to get other guys to come out and help, to at least do one property in each town. So he did cut that grass. And we just want to thank all the people who are going out of their comfort zone and try to help to clean up Penns Grove. Now I'm going over a little into Mr. Mike's department.
Before you move into Mr. Mike's department, I just want to just add something.
Okay.
Councilwoman Mincy. And actually, this is for all members of council. When we see people doing amazing things like cleaning up, things like that, we can actually present them with a resolution to congratulate them, which I think is very important, because we need to let people know how much we appreciate them all chipping in and, being a part of revitalizing our town. So I think things like that need to be recognized. Ms. Williams, have we done this over the years before? Do you remember?
Not to my knowledge now. A lot of people have just gone unrecognized or worked behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
unless most of the time it's been behind a desk. Proclamation.
Yeah.
Hearing.
We're getting some background noise. Councilmember Coote, you are breaking up. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Carol. I apologize. I just wanted to add that in when you shared that. So.
Okay. Also, we are still looking for two part-time housing inspectors. It should be on the website. I talked to Tracy today, and it should be on the website.
It is.
Okay. We're also looking for volunteers. Years ago, we used to have this thing called Board of Health. Board of Health would ride around and write up properties, and they would turn it into the code enforcement official. So I've been working with Enoch to get new paper written up so they can do that. But we're looking for volunteers to help us. So, because we've got so much to get caught up on and so much to get cleaned up. Also, I guess we have to go to the monitor first for the new position for abandoned buildings. I did get someone to give me a job description of the abandoned buildings on what they do. We need to create that position so we can start collecting our money, I'm going to say, on these abandoned buildings.
Ms. Mincy, can we add the salary for the part-time job? Because I think more people would apply if we add that.
I don't know what it says on there. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
There is no salary listed. I didn't know what council. Actually, normally I don't enter the salary,
Uh-huh.
but if council shares that, we can add that to it as well.
And we can also add the entire job description?
Yes, I'm sure she can fit it on there one way or another. It depends on, I guess, the depth, but I'm sure that she could set it up where there's a link or, you know what I mean, to
Okay,
go directly to the description.
okay. Is Mr., one second, Ms. Mincy. Is Mr. Lab on the call still?
Yes.
What is the budget for the position?
But
What
that's
is,
what it
actually, what is in the budget for this position, actually?
Nothing.
It's not in the budget right now, so we would have to discuss that, and it would
Okay.
actually have to go with the monitor also. So
Okay.
that's something that we will have to discuss with the monitor, the pros and cons. And that's something that we would have to work in a budget with the monitor's approval.
Okay, so we can't hire until we know where the money's coming from, so.
We know what the money.
Right.
Since,
And also with approval from the monitor.
since my name's been referenced several times, let me just weigh in. You entered, you know, in a positive way, hopefully. You just voted to introduce the budget. You had your public hearing on the budget. So before you're talking about positions, my question would be, is it in the budget that you guys just voted on and had a public hearing on?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first step. And if it is in the budget, what salary did you put in the budget? If it's not, then you have to amend the budget. So like you should have those discussions before you adopt a budget, not adopt a budget and then decide what positions to put in.
Well, I thought, this is just my understanding, that the money didn't come out of the budget because it's the position is, what are they?
You're trying to say that it's going to be funded by fees and permits and fines.
Yes.
That'll be right. So that comes in as a revenue, but it still has to be listed as an expense on the,
Okay.
but I'm not opposed to it. Like I'm willing to listen. If you guys want to make the pitch to me that you want to hire a position and it'll be funded by fees and permits, and I'll listen to that. But what I'm saying is it has to be in the budget that you guys vote on.
Okay.
And if that means we need to amend it, then we'll have to amend it.
Okay.
Can't we make a motion this evening to a motion on the salary for the position? Let's save some time. And then Steve, you figure out if it's in the budget, and if not, the next time we meet, we can discuss amending the budget.
Well, he just told you it's not in the budget.
Steve said that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm saying, okay, well, we still can make a decision tonight on a salary for that position.
Well, no, I don't want to do that because I want to know all the positions needed first so that we can prioritize.
Okay. So basically the details of the position. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the, Madam Mayor, if I can just say, one of the things we have to do is get more systemic as to how we look at the budget. You voted unanimously to make a TA application. That TA application that you asked us the aid for has listed in it all the positions in the municipality, all the police officers, all the positions, all the employees. And then we review that application, we approve your budget, and we set the aid based on what you tell us in that application. So you have to kind of look at this more as a global, all that has to mesh. What you ask for in the TA application and your aid package, what you're introducing in the budget, you know, that all has to work together. You don't want to look haphazard that you say one thing in the TA, another thing in the budget, and then a month later, oh, we want 2 more positions added in. So I realize we're working on this together, but that's how you want to have those discussions so that it works together. Because the reason you're getting TA is you don't have enough money to pay for the positions you have. That's why you're getting transitional aid.
Right.
So to add more positions without addressing how you're going to pay for those, that's where it gets problematic. So,
Okay.
and I'll work with you and I'll help Steve try to identify funds if you have fees or revenues or permits. But the whole system is supposed to work together. You just can't decide in August that you have a need and you want to hire somebody after we've already approved your TA and approved the budget.
Okay. So basically we have to stop building the airplane while it's in the sky.
Well, we had already talked about this. I didn't know it wasn't in the budget. This wasn't the first time we brought it up. I just brought it up again because I found out it wasn't on the site, on the website. So it should have been on there because we talked about this the last time we had a meeting. It was 2 months ago.
Right.
You'll have another chance to amend the budget. But what
Okay.
I'm trying to say nicely is once we, and we're not to that point yet, but once you adopt the budget, once we
Mhm.
approve it and you adopt it, that's the budget. And it's
Okay.
not changing until next year.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sasdelli. I do have another question, but it's about the previous issue that we were talking about in terms of the fast drivers. So before I go back to the previous issue, Ms. Carroll, did you have anything else that you wanted to report for your report?
No, I think that's it for there.
Okay, all right. Now, on the previous issue, on the fast drivers that we tend to have throughout town, Mr. Telsey, can we change the speed limit by ordinance or resolution if it's a borough street?
Yes, it's done by ordinance.
Okay.
Our code book should, I'm not 100% sure, but it should have a list of every street owned by the borough, and typically it would have the speed limit on that street. But needless to say, any change to a borough-owned street would be done by ordinance.
Okay. And another question is, how do we get the freeholders to agree to changing the speed limit on county roads?
You ask them very nicely, and hopefully we and try to convince them.
Okay. Is there,
Mayor?
Yeah.
I would also suggest, I mean, and I'm being serious. You need to talk to them, but you also, another tool we sometimes use is passing a resolution requesting the freeholder to make that change.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Telsey. And if there's no objection to doing that, we should get an ordinance on the next meeting and agenda. And I would ask that Mr. Oliver and Mr. Washington, can you both take the lead on picking the streets that we want to address first?
Yes, I don't have a problem with that. I can get with Sharon and we'll get something together.
Yeah, no problem, Mayor. We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Chief here, if I may interject. I spoke with county engineers. The county engineers, to change any county speed, have to do a study first on the roads in order to change the speed limits.
Okay.
That's correct. They would typically want to do that before they made any changes, but
that is correct.
And that's just for county roads, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
But maybe we can get them to expedite that before anybody get killed. So.
Yeah.
Well, he was just out to my house this week. I think it was Wednesday he came out. I'm sorry, last week he came out.
Okay. All right. Well, let's deal with ours for now with an ordinance in July for the borough-owned streets. Let's deal with ours for now, and then we can work on the county streets as well. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your input. Next, we'll move on to department reports. Each department is asked to give a brief report, except for Chief Riley. I have asked him to give a more detailed report tonight, which he'll get into, and that report has to do with the crisis that we have going on now. So Chief Riley will give a more detailed report about use of force policy. At any rate, we'll move to the clerk's report.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a report, but I do need to give some reminders to all council and volunteers, and that it's important to complete your financial disclosure statement. Due to COVID-19, the governor has extended that filing until July 30th. It takes approximately 5 minutes of your time. If you have a hard time or you need me to help you or walk you through, what have you, I have no problem doing that. But it's important to do that. This comes out of the Ethics Commission, and failure to do so could result in fines. Also, as we're aware, the election has been moved to July 7th. With that being said, tomorrow morning at 9:30, there'll be a conference call between the Salem County Board of Elections and the municipal clerks to discuss the process and whatever other information they'd like to share. I do know that they are looking to hold the provisional voting ballots at some of the municipalities if it can be done, if room is feasible. So I'm hoping for that. But I will keep everybody updated after tomorrow's conference call. That's all I have, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you. And is that 7:30 a.m. or p.m.? The call, the call that they're setting up.
The call is at 9:30, but that's just for the clerks.
Oh, 9:30 for the clerks. Okay.
Yes, just to give us an update on how we're going to handle this year's primary. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to the Finance Officer report. Mr. Lab, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I have a temporary capital budget resolution. This provides an amendment to the capital budget because we have not adopted our capital budget yet for acquisition of various computer equipment. We have a capital ordinance by title only for acquisition of computer equipment. We also have a contract resolution for purchase of a live scan. The chief can kind of see in with that. It's, I guess, a fingerprint machine that's mandated by the police department. The prior one broke, so we needed a new one. Chief, do you want to expound on that?
Yes, Steve. It's called, it's an InfoShare. It's a machine that's used to fingerprint and used for any type of charges, summons and warrants, complaints. It's mandatory by the state. Our old machine was not only failing, it was becoming out of date, and an upgrade was necessary. Fortunately, we had the funds. We were able to purchase. The machine is very expensive. It was approximately $25,000. It was installed approximately 3.5 weeks ago, and it's going very good at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Lab, are you finished?
Steve.
So the only other thing that I have on the agenda is we do have a resolution on tonight's meeting, and it kind of fell between the cracks. This resolution is approving the filing of an application for a community facility grant program, and this would be for equipment for the police department. A waiver does have to be completed, and I would have to send it to our monitor, Ed, prior to actually filing this application. So I'll get all the pertinent information from our grant consultant and get that waiver to Ed so he can look it over and he can have our thoughts on that. Thank you, Mrs. Mayor.
Was purchasing equipment on the agenda tonight that was already purchased? Did I hear that right?
The state contract?
Yes.
Yeah, it's for the state contract of the fingerprint machine. Yes, because I think we had canceled 3 previous meetings. So we couldn't put this on the original meeting.
Okay. Well, for future reference, we have to get these things on the agenda on time or have a special meeting. We have to make sure we do that going forward.
Yeah, this was on the agenda, but unfortunately due to the various circumstances for the prior meeting, we had to reschedule, and we rescheduled the second and the third meeting. So that's why it's kind of after the fact, but it was on the original agenda prior to being purchased.
Understood. It's an exception.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Lab, I have a question. What are we anticipating in terms of adjustments or decreases to state aid?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor? You break it up.
What are we anticipating in terms of adjustments or decreases to state aid? And Mr. Sazdelli, feel free to chime in too if you have any input.
We don't have a particular number yet. I know in our case, when we introduced the application, we already anticipated 15% less than the prior year's award. I'm not sure how that's going to affect our application. I'm not sure if Ed has any information or any additional information you can share concerning that.
I had forwarded an email to Steve and I think the mayor and the council president that the only I don't know about specific towns yet, but the governor announced that we're anticipating a $10 billion, that's what it'd be, $10 billion shortfall in the state budget. So he announced a bunch of cuts, and one of them was $30 million in the transitional aid program. So the only thing I have to tell you is what he announced, which was there's going to be $30 million less in the overall TA program, but I don't know at this time what that's going to mean for each of the individual towns. Needless to say, as soon as I know anything, I'll let Steve know immediately.
Okay. What actions should we take this month to prepare? I want to avoid taxes increasing or layoffs if possible. So are there any things that, any steps that we should do to prepare?
I think you're in pretty decent shape. You introduced the budget. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. You introduced the budget at 85% of what you received last year.
Yes.
Right. So you've already anticipated a 15% decrease in your transitional aid. I think that's a safe position as far as to announce to us, to the state, like you're doing what we told you to do. We told you to introduce at 85%. So I would stick with that internally amongst yourselves. That's why it's not that I wanted to jump on the council president, but that's why I jumped on that position about adding new positions. Like, we don't know what the tax collection rate's going to be this year. We don't know what your aid's going to be this year. We don't even know, if the budget that you introduced is going to get you through the year. We're nervous about people paying their mortgages, people paying, their fees. So what you can do internally is just try to keep the budget as tight, like you're already doing. You don't have a lot of fluff in your budget, but try to keep it as tight as possible and just be cautious that every time you add $19,000 to the budget, you add a penny to the tax rate. And I don't think you're going to get an increase in aid. I mean, I think it's a home run if we stay the same, but you're certainly not going to get an increase. So if you add 19,000 to your budget, you're adding a penny to the tax rate.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sazdelli, for being on the call as well and providing your input. It's much appreciated.
It has been very helpful in this whole process. Great insight, giving us good ideas. So really appreciate having him on the team.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. What did Ronald Reagan say? We're here from the government and I'm here to help.
All right. Moving on to the Chief of Police. Before we move on to Chief Riley's report, I just want to add that, as everyone knows, our country has had a health crisis, and now we've had a public safety wake-up call. So as the nation reflects on issues of race and class and safety, I had a conversation with Chief Riley to give the public and council a report on use of force policy and to give us an update of de-escalation tactics. So, and also, Chief, if you don't mind, I'd also, once you finish giving your report, I'd also like you to read the beautiful statement that you posted on Facebook last night.
I can do that, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I want to read first the police report, as I usually do, and then I want to go into the use of force, which we'll speak about here very shortly. The report is prepared for April 1st to May 31st. The police department responded to 1,666 calls for service, issued 35 motor vehicle summons, 23 borough ordinances, 27 arrests, 2 DUIs and 815 property checks. And the 815 property checks will be property checks in problem areas that we spoke about earlier in the year. We had a few shootings back in January, and these were the targeted areas that we needed to increase enforcement. And fortunately, as of now, things in those areas have been resolved. The department, during the COVID, we changed to a modified schedule to give the officers and, of course, the citizens less exposure. As of May 29th, we reverted back to a full schedule due to the call volume increase and the potential toll that it was taking on the officers because they were working basically undermanned short shifts. So we changed that back as of May 29th. In the month of May, as most know, I prepared a new policy for EPA. Went into effect on May 1st. I had a lot of help from JIF, help from the mayor. And the EPA program is available now in the police department and to all borough employees, even volunteer employees, which I believe the number was 89. Between that and our resiliency that we have through the state, I believe with these tools in place, it gives us a much more effective officer to serve. On a good note, the mayor and I had a discussion at the beginning of May, and before we spoke, I was having these thoughts in my mind, and apparently the mayor was. So what we did was we had a discussion over how do we curb, or what can we do differently to reduce the cases of the COVID. So the mayor and I spoke. There was some donations made. The mayor was very resourceful in getting PPE when we seemed that we couldn't locate these items due to shortages. During the time, we decided we were going to enforce the education, have the officers all have PPE packets in the police vehicles, and also at the police department. We used Facebook. The mayor used the Borough website to also educate and to put everybody, give them the information that we do have these things. So I did a brief statistical study over that period of time. The month of May, Pensgrove cases decreased by 32%. So I think we didn't know in the beginning how we were going to actually measure this to see if we were going in the right direction, but I came up with a formula and did the research, and it came up to 32% reduction in COVID reported cases in the borough. So I think that's a major success. To speak quickly, Pensgrove High School is set to have their graduation date on the 16th. And I've been in the meetings with Chief Caribda, the superintendent, and the Pensgrove High School principal. At first, I requested they put a permit in because the parade, I don't want to use the word parade, but the vehicle routes were not quite clear until today. So the permit really wasn't necessary. The high school, the day of graduation, was the 16th, which is going to be about a 7-hour process due to the limited numbers that they can graduate in the rear of the high school. At any rate, they're going to be using Virginia Avenue just to pass through from Maple to Field Street. So they're really just passing through. We're going to assist Carneys Point Police on basically, the red light on Virginia Avenue, 48 and 130. So that situation has really resolved itself today after being in a meeting. Let's talk about internal affairs and use of force. The mayor spoke, I believe we spoke Sunday, and the mayor requested that I do a summary. And I provided this summary to all the council. So what I have in front of me is basically I started this report out, and if anyone requests it, I welcome them to come in and just I ask to see me at the door, and I'll provide this copy. There's just one small section that'll have to be redacted due to a civil suit. So I started the report with defining excessive force and defining what the use of force is, so people understand. The mayor asked for 5 years, so I looked at 5 years 1 year under one chief, 3 years under another chief, and 6 months under myself, for a total of 5 years. In 5 years, the Penns Grove Police Department had a total of 56 use of force cases reported by the officers. I'll break that down a little bit. Over that 5 years' time, the use of force reports and use of force was used less than 2.5% of the time. So what are we saying? We're saying every 100 arrests, because it was 2,254 over that same period. So what we're saying is that less than 2.5% of the time, any force is being used. And when I say force, the definition could be simply anything other than a basic escort by holding somebody's arm to escort him and assist him in being placed in the rear of the police vehicle. So now I broke that even down a little further on some examples. Example one I used, if 3 officers are in one type of incident, that's 3 separate use of force reports. So that is one incident, but it's 3 reports. Secondly, in 2018, we started conducting our own, as of May 18, we started conducting our own internal affairs complaints. The Salem County Prosecutor's Office were conducting them previously. During that period of time, we had 1 claim of excessive force by the internal affairs. The case was exonerated, which means that there was force used, but it was not excessive and justified. Since May of 2018, I also coupled any excessive use of force, which we had 1 claim, with an internal affairs complaint, because if there's force that is, of course, excessive, an internal affairs complaint has to be conducted. Once again, this is the one I just mentioned. Above that, it is 1 case, 1 internal affairs investigation. We have no others. Briefly on internal affairs, we have 5 internal affairs complaints this year. 4 was initiated by myself. So we're going in a great direction there. In 2018, deadly force was used by one of our officers in a commission of a bank robbery. That officer was placed on administrative leave. The internal affairs from Salem County Prosecutor's Office and the Attorney General's Office conducted a full investigation. The officer was cleared. It also went before a grand jury, was presented, and it was not true billed. The second one that I can't speak about was the use of force in 2018, and only because it's in civil litigation. The other case that I can reference is 2017. We had allegation of excessive force by an officer. A internal affairs complaint was completed. The allegations were sustained, and the officer was released. Now let's talk about the policy itself. The policy itself, we use a mirror image of the Attorney General's office. That's the use of force policy we use. Also coupled with that is an early warning system. It's also a policy that we use exactly from the New Jersey Attorney General. So it's the use of force is basic, to be very basic. It is what governs us, what our rules are, and how we have to deal with these situations. Included in this is de-escalation. They also receive de-escalation training in active shooter. They also receive de-escalation and simulations training, which gives them live scenarios to react to whatever force is presented and use the use of force continuum. So the training's been really good. We're in that training with the Salem County Prosecutor's Office, and we're currently doing our training through the Salem County Prosecutor's Office for spring of 2020 in use of force, which covers all these things. To comment overall, I would like anybody that wants to read it for themselves, they can go to the Division of Criminal Justice on the web. They can click on AG directives. They can select 2006-5, which is the use of force policy. It was revised in July 28th of 2015. So if there's any questions in there, Once the COVID is completely lifted, the mayor, we had some meetings scheduled to start speaking with the community to educate them on all our policies. So so they understand exactly what is occurring and how things are occurring. And if there's any questions, we want to be totally clear. We want to explain it so everybody has the understanding of exactly how and what we can do and how and what we're not supposed to do. So I think with all these things and in the current situation that we have in the country, this is probably the most important time to, you know,
Everybody still there?
Steve Riley?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
He must have dropped off.
Yeah, I don't see his picture, but I think it canceled that out. I can't tell whether he's muted or not. I don't think he's muted.
He's what?
He's not muted. So.
Let's see.
I don't know. I think he's off now.
All right. He's probably having some technical difficulties, so we'll move
Yeah,
on.
I don't see him on the list anymore.
Yeah, we'll move on and we'll come back later because
Okay.
he's got some important information to share. All right, so we'll move on to the fire chief report. All right, we can circle back at the fire chief. Adam?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Fire Chief Adam. I see him, but I see he's on mute. So Adam, if you're speaking, Fire Chief, if you're speaking, you have to unmute yourself.
You got me, Mayor?
Yes, there you go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How are you? I hope everybody's well. Just a couple things going on. As you guys, you know from last year, we had our new ladder truck ordered. It's as we speak now, 2 weeks into being built. It should be done by the middle of August. As far as my guys are concerned, everybody's well so far. You know, I got to, give a praise to Debbie again. Debbie's doing an outstanding job out there with that ambulance. I mean, she's running a lot of calls. And I did see she got a new ambulance, so that's another good thing. That's nice to see. My only one concern that I have right now, going back, Mayor, before you became mayor, there was a couple grants out there that when we got the roof done and we were supposed to get the parking lot done. And this parking lot was supposed to be done before the truck arrived in, let's just say it's supposed to be here in June, but now it's been pushed to August. I don't know when the last time you were behind the fire hall or any of you council people other than Lou. I know for a fact it's been back there. That is completely horrible back there.
It
You cannot
is.
even drive back there.
It is.
And we have to bring that apparatus so my guys don't back into the building when they're bringing that, that $1 million piece of apparatus back, so they don't have to back in from Harmony Street side. They come off of Griffith Street and pull through the building. We're getting ready to get $1 million piece of apparatus here that's going to be delivered that we're bringing nothing but dirt, rock, everything inside that fire hall. But other than that, everything's good. I hope everybody is well, and I hope you stay well.
Thank you. Chief, this needs to be,
Yeah.
in terms of the parking lot, this needs to be a longer discussion with the Public Works Committee. So we'll need to have set that up.
Mayor, I'm back. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I got cut out.
Yeah, we'll circle back to you, Chief Riley, as soon as we're finished with Adam.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay. So anyway, lost my train of thought. Adam, Fire Chief, yes. So yes, this would need to be a longer discussion with Public Works Committee. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. And I would like to get an update next week.
Yes, that's fine. I will get with the Public Works Committee.
Thank you. And then one last question for you. Who's going to christen the fire truck? Because I would love to break a bottle on it.
Well, there will be no bottle breakings, that's for sure. But everybody will be notified. It will be coming in on a night. I scheduled it to come in like after 6:30 at night. So as long as we're able to gather, should I say, which we can do the social distancing thing, I will notify everybody that it's coming, so you will see it. You'll see it and hear it, should I say.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it. All right, back to Chief Riley.
Where did I get cut out?
Let's see. You were talking about, you were discussing use of force, and you were discussing the amount of cases that we've had over the years, and then you dropped off.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's try this again. All righty. So we were discussing the cases. So I was at 2.5, correct?
Yes.
You actually said,
All right.
let's talk about the you were done. I think you were done with that. You said something about, let's talk about the rules itself or something.
Oh, okay. I was to the use of force. All right. So I explained the 2.5%, correct?
Yes.
Of total incidents. Okay. So now I broke it down into individual cases. So one of the cases will reference that if you had 3 officers in an incident, that's 3 separate reports. That's not 3 separate incidents. It's 1 incident with 3 reports. So I want that to be clear. Secondly, in 2018, we took over control of our internal affairs complaints. We had 1 excessive force complaint that time period.
You already went over all this.
Okay. Use of force bank robbery. So the use of force policies are
Use of force policy is what you were going to talk about.
Okay. So
Sorry.
our use of force policy is the mirror image of the Attorney General.
You left off with telling us to go to a website and click on 2006.
Very good. All righty. Thank you. I don't know what happened to my phone. So the website, if you go to Division of Criminal Justice and click on AG Directives. AG Directives, if you scroll down to 2006-5, it was revised July 28th of 2015. That's the current policy we use. Additional to that policy that we use, the Penns Grove Police Department conducts its own individual administrative review of any use of force, which is not required by the state, but it's required by me to keep the department in total transparency. So we have every documentation of every record of everything that came in there and a complete investigation and all supporting documents. In the event there was any question about any use of force, because I will not tolerate any use of force issues, excessive use of force, I should say, by the officers, as most know. Then I believe that led me to reading my statement that I put out on Facebook yesterday. My statement I wanted to put out there so the citizens understood that, we're backing them. We're not supporting, rogue officers is what I want to call them. But I'm going to read this exactly what I put out last night. I'm extremely saddened by the actions of 4 officers from Minnesota who brought shame to all those who wear a badge and thrusted our country into chaos. Please understand that the Penns Grove Police Department do not stand behind the actions of these officers or any other officer that may act in this way. Penns Grove Police Department works very diligently and develop positive relationships with all members of the community and will continue to do so in the future. All officers are well trained in the use of force and de-escalation tactics, as we strictly adhere to the guidelines set forth by the New Jersey Attorney General. Additionally, all officers understand what the word compassion represents. I want the citizens of Penns Grove to know that we are here to serve you, the citizen, fairly and with the utmost respect. I thank you for cooperating with the police department through these most difficult times. And I believe that's where I ended.
Thank you, Chief Riley.
Bravo.
Thank you. Some of the things that were discussed, we have our monthly police committee meeting, speed in areas were discussed. I have currently speed enforcement on Delaware Avenue because I was out there on a complaint myself one day and observed it. And I believe it's more or less the times that the nursing home on 6th Avenue makes relief at their shift changes. So we have officers out there conducting that. And I just need to sit with more locations. But as I said earlier, I spoke to the county engineers. So we do need some speed zones, or we need them changed, but we just have to, I need to be submitted, or I'll sit with Mr. Oliver and he can give me the locations. And if the county roads, will get the study started. And if the borough roads, I mean, absolutely 100%. I'm 100% in supporting this. Let me know what I need to do, or give it to me and I'll take care of it myself.
Great. Thanks, Chief Riley. Are there any questions from council? Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to the ambulance EMS captain report. I believe Councilwoman Mincy was going to give a report on behalf of Debbie Ashcraft.
Not unless Debbie's here. She said she would try to get here.
Debbie, are you here?
Okay, then I'll go ahead and read it.
Okay, thank you.
Total calls for 220 is 370. Calls from March 1st to May 31st is 224. Mutual aid calls for 2020 is 60.
Damn.
Mutual aid calls from March 1st to March 31st is 41. Mutual aid calls is when they go out to help the other towns.
Okay. I was going to ask what that is.
Yeah. It says, we have helped Cornish Point with many transports of COVID from nursing home. PPE is always a concern, and so far, the Office of Emergency Management has been giving us gowns and shields. Thank you, Erica Walker, for finding a box of Tyvek suits. They have also been appreciated. The police have been great and can't say enough about their efforts to always help. The fire department, when asked, is always willing and able to help us. The new ambulance is here, almost ready to have both ambulances in service at the same time, working on some extra equipment needed to complete this. Thank you to everyone who helped make this happen. Both past and current administration have always supported us fully. Thank you all for making my job easier, knowing all I have to do is ask and it will come. Debbie Ashcraft. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of comments. As everybody's aware, we're still moving through the coronavirus, and with the coronavirus comes a multitude of issues that most of us have never had to even consider on a municipal level until probably March of this year. I've been trying to keep up with respect to changing things that are changing. The governor's made several changes, several executive orders that have direct impacts on the towns like Pensgrove. I just want you to know that as things come by that I see, or I notice things that are of use to Pensgrove, I am trying to send those to the governing body for their thoughts, consideration, things of that nature. So I'm just trying to keep everybody updated because this information comes from different sources. If it's not from the governor, it's from insurance, or it's just from different venues that I am involved in as solicitor for a few towns. So you may see several items come across your email that I send to Sharon for review, thoughts, and consideration. That's what they're there for, your reviews, thoughts, and consideration. Some of them may be not good, some of them are good, but as this coronavirus progresses and it affects more and more things that we've never had to deal with before. For example, tax appeal filing deadline has now been extended to the beginning of July. These are new things that have just happened. You know, I want the governing body to be aware of issues that I'm aware of. So I'll just continue to keep the governing body aware of these issues as they go forward. The only other thing I just wanted to comment on that I've been working closely with Police Clerk Thompson. We've received several OPA requests over the past couple of weeks. Some of them are relatively tricky with respect to what's being asked for and the format that they're being asked for. Tracy's been doing a great job with them. I've been assisting Tracy with them to provide the appropriate responses. Other than that, that's really all I have to report this evening, unless anybody has any questions.
I have a question. Can you give us an example of OPA requests?
We just had one recently where I don't remember if it's Pentra or another town where they had a request was made for use of force reports, just following up on what the chief said. That's an example that we just received.
Wow. Okay.
They come in all different shapes, forms, and sizes. A lot of times we have to be critical of the request that comes in. Sometimes they're not requests for documents. Sometimes they're requests that the municipality compile lists or compile information, which we're not required to do under Open Public Records Act. We're simply required to provide documents to the extent they're public records. So these are the kinds of analyses that we go through when I work through with the chief and with Ms. Thompson, and that's why sometimes they can be a little bit complicated.
And if I could chime in, if I may, with the most recent one from this requester with regard to the police department, there's one that comes in and they're requesting almost, I think it's a little over or close to 10 years worth of documents. So this is not something that can be turned over in a matter of 7 days, business days. So that's when we request, and with this one requester, request additional time. And this is actually being suggested and recommended by the GIF. They sent out a mass email to all the municipalities indicating the importance and recognizing that we're under COVID and still sheltering in place. So those factors come into play as well. In this case,
a prime example of an executive order that comes from the governor, and it's kind of interesting you brought that up because that's kind of a prime example of new law and the new issues that are coming through with coronavirus, because typically documents are to be provided no more than 7 days from when the request is received. However, the governor entered an executive order suspending that 7-day requirement because they're aware that many people are not working in their municipalities. So I only bring that up as an example of the ongoing changes and ongoing issues that are coming up with coronavirus as well.
Okay. And do we have any pending litigations or personnel issues for closed session this month, or any anticipated for July?
At some point, the only litigation we have that that I'd like to discuss at some point is the matter involving Pensgrove Scattered Sites Rehab. It's the Glenn Fishman lawsuit. I don't think we need to try to access a closed session tonight because that's going to be complicated. Pretty much all litigation of this nature has been suspended for the most part because of the coronavirus. But I think it would be a good idea to have a closed session discussion to bring everybody up to speed as to what's going on and where we stand with that lawsuit.
Okay, and then last question I have for you, Mr. Telsey, is how many, and I believe I asked you this question already, but I just want to confirm, how many judgments, outstanding judgments do we have? I recall receiving a settlement request from the Office of Conrad Benedetto the judgment was in the amount of $1,750.
That's,
So my question is this the only outstanding judgment that we currently have?
it's the only one I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's on the agenda for tonight or not, but we may want to discuss that and the request and how we want to handle that.
Okay. Nope, that's actually not on the agenda for tonight.
We may want to discuss it, maybe bring it up under new business, or we can discuss it right now if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's discuss it right now. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do it under new business if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, moving into well, before we do that, are there any questions before we move into the mayor's report? Okay. All right. Before we vote on anything else, I just wanted to share a few things. Unlike many candidates in small towns, my campaign made the news, as I'm sure everyone is aware of, and people learned exactly when I moved back to Pennsgrove. They learned, things about my family. They got to meet me as I knocked on their doors. We were able to bring together a coalition of Pennsgrove residents to vote that has never been seen. And I would dishonor those residents, which is 65% of the people that voted for me in all of Pennsgrove, including those that I serve, that maybe did not support me. If I give up, stop pushing for better, or relinquish my powers due to pressure, I would just be letting my supporters down. And when I ran for mayor, I studied our government structure. And not long after I was elected, I attended the League of Municipalities conference in Atlantic City. And I may have been the only elected official there from this borough. And I know with conversations with others that attended the League of Municipalities, they mentioned to me that it was very rare that anyone from Pennsgrove ever showed up. So they were very shocked and also happy that I showed up at the League of Municipalities. I am determined to work with all the council members, the state monitor, the Department of Community Affairs, and the people of Pennsgrove to move towards a government that has structure, hierarchy, responsibility, and accountability. And, we can't continue to let some people report to no one. The council meetings cannot also be staff meetings to get updates on daily activities. We need to centralize, we need centralized leadership. So council members, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your ideas, and I also appreciate your energy. But as we heard earlier, we have no one working on true economic development. We have no staff or council members that are leading on waterfront development or getting our business corridors booming with businesses as Pennsgrove had for generations. We're all paid less than $5,000, and this is a part-time job with full-time work required. So we need a better structure. And outside of borough council meetings, every single person that I talk to in and out of Pennsgrove agrees with this. So I know we all want to see the best for our town. We may disagree at times on how to get there. A few weeks ago, I had an interesting meeting with Mayor Brown of Carneys Point. Actually, it was Ms. Carol Minty and I both met with Mayor Brown, and we discussed our local service agreements. And I wanted to know what our abandoned properties, or why our abandoned properties aren't being boarded up. I will not share the details of what was discussed, but I will share the conclusion. And the conclusion is that we need a better agreement. And we also need a lawyer that can represent us, known as a conflict counsel. You'll see that the resolution is on the agenda, but for another issue, actually. So I will have more to say before the specific resolutions and ordinances. But please note that I will work with anyone with the goal of having a better government. But again, I will stay committed to building a better structure for our government. The first resolution, which is 2020-5-87, is for police equipment. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Bennett?
Can you all hear Steve? He's trying to speak.
No, can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes, this is the resolution I talked about. You can approve it, but it's contingent upon grant waiver approval. So what I have to do is I have to do grant waiver approval and send it to Ed. He has to look it over and sign off on the approval before we can officially submit this application. It's part of the MOU.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lab. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call?
You're talking about 587 right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You had a question, Councilman Pasquale?
Yes, you're talking about 587, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of lost there for a second. All right.
Mr. Burkett? Ms. Mincy?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yes.
Mr. Washington? Mr. Washington?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Burkett?
Madam Mayor, when it's appropriate, can I make a comment about that resolution?
Yes. Councilmember Coop, we can't understand you. You're breaking up. No. Can you give Carol Messi a call so that she can put you on speaker? Okay, while we wait for Mr. Burkett. Go ahead, Mr. Sasdali.
I just wanted to point out, because Steve referenced that a couple of times, that the grant has to come to DCA. The only reason that is we're not against the city applying for grants. Quite the opposite. We encourage the borough to apply for grants. The reason why it comes to us is if it requires a local match, or if it requires in-kind services that are going to encumber your budget for this year or future years, then we have to consider that if we're going to apply for the grant. A lot of these grants have a local match component, and that's what we're concerned about. So that's the only part we review.
Thank you, Mr. Sasdali. All right. Next is 2020-5-88, and this is a resolution approving state contract. This is for police equipment. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett? Ms. Mincy?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Washington? Mr. Washington?
Is Mr. Washington still on? Mr. Washington, if you're speaking, you'll have to unmute yourself. He may be on mute. Okay.
I don't see him.
All right.
So with that, we have 3 No.
I'm sorry, I got logged off. I'm back on if you guys look for me.
Yes,
Okay.
we were looking for you.
I just I lost signal. I just signed back on. Okay, I'm sorry.
This is for the resolution 2020-5-88, and that's the resolution approving the state contract. So Madam Clerk was just doing roll call, and it was your turn to speak, to vote.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
All right, motion approved. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. We just approved the resolution for 2025-87, right? That's what we just approved?
No.
No, 2588.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, moving on to 2020-5-89. This is for temporary capital budget. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any questions? Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, motion approved. Okay, this next agenda item is for approval of conflict counsel. As you may remember, at our last regular meeting, the professional services I selected did not get a majority of counsel to support. On some of those items, council members presented their own selections. Since they did not wait 30 days as state law required, those resolutions must be rescinded. We also had an issue with how the vote landed. Due to this issue specifically, we need a conflict counsel, since Mr. Chelsea cannot advise us on his own contract. We will also eventually need conflict counsel to represent Pennsgrove when we negotiate our agreements with Carneys Point. That may be a different resolution. But with that said, is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-5-90?
Questions.
Yes.
Is this the resolution that we had some abstain votes?
No.
Okay.
No, this is actually a new resolution. So is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to
I had one question too myself before we go on. So is this strictly for the public's work, or is this going to be for other items too?
This would be for other items that we would need a conflict attorney. Just one of the points that we definitely need them for is to negotiate our agreements with Carneys Point. And then, as I mentioned, Mr. Chelsea couldn't give us advice on his own contract. So things like that, and anything else that would come up that we would need a conflict attorney, that's what this council would be used for. All right, any more questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Sorry, Councilmember Coote, you're breaking up again. Is there a second?
I thought Percoot seconded it.
Did
No?
he?
Maybe if he could turn his audio back on, I could see him wave or something.
Second.
Like,
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have a second. Are there any questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
If you can't second it, I'll second it.
What was that,
Mr.
Lou?
Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next resolution, 2020-5-91. This is for a duplicate tax certificate. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Washington?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right. Motion approved. All right, moving on to 2020-5-93. This is a resolution requesting temporary closure of county roads.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we can disregard that one. The application for closure of the road did not come through. I apologize. I had already sent the the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
But I think we skipped number 92.
Yeah, I see. Yeah,
Resolution.
yeah, we did. I went too far.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there a motion to approve 2020-5-92? And this is for governing body certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commissions.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Okay. Motion approved. All right. Okay. All right, moving on to ordinances. Ordinance 2020-3. This is an ordinance changing appropriate authority. Before we move on to that ordinance, Madam Clerk, did we have a resolution on the agenda appointing a police officer? I thought it was 2020-5-94.
We did, and that was the second, the amended, the amended agenda that was sent. I can read it's short and sweet. I have the final agenda. If you'd like me to read the resolution appointing police officer.
Yes, please.
Where this is resolution number 2020-5-94, resolution appointing police officer. Whereas the Borough of Pensgrove is in need of a police officer, and whereas Jonathan McElroy, who is currently employed by the Borough of Pensgrove as a special law enforcement officer 2, has fulfilled all the requirements set forth by statute to be a police officer, and whereas the Chief of Police supports his candidacy, and whereas Jonathan McElroy has successfully completed or will complete the necessary training to serve as a police officer, and whereas Jonathan McElroy, has obtained or will obtain the proper certifications from the Police Training Commission to serve as police officer. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Pensgrove that Jonathan McElroy is appointed as a Pensgrove police officer effective June 29th, 2020. This appointment has been approved by the State of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs and shall not be effective until such approval is received by the Borough of Pennsgrove. And be it further resolved that the clerk certify a copy of this resolution and file it on the public record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
And before we move on to approve this resolution, earlier we learned some amazing things from Chief Riley about our police department. Chief Riley, do you have anything that you'd like to tell us in regards to the promotion of Officer Jonathan McElroy?
Excuse me. Officer McElroy was hired last year as a SLEO, a Class 2 officer, which is a part-time officer. He started first as a booking clerk, worked his way up to SLEO 2. He is currently assigned to a shift under the COVID rules of the governor's changing of the rules of hours of usage. We were able to use him and assign him to a shift as basically working full-time hours. He is unable to be hired until the 29th of June full-time due to PTC, the Police Training Commission, requires 1 year of a Class 2 officer. He is highly recommended by me when I spoke with the police committee and yourself, excuse me, in reference to this. I also provided a copy of an evaluation, which is outstanding, and the officer really enjoys working in the community, and he's doing a terrific job, and he is a very good hire, and I'm glad to have him on board full time, and I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mincy, did you have anything that you'd like to say or add or anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any questions?
Jesus God.
Councilmember Coop, we cannot understand you. You're very, very muffled. All right, Madam Clerk,
Yes.
can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion is approved.
I feel bad that the officer can't bring his family to council and celebrate with him afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, and Chief Riley, I'm gonna reach out to you after the meeting or possibly in the morning to set up a day this week where I can swear Officer McElroy in. You know, of course, practicing social distancing.
Yes, that would be fine. You know, we have a very busy week with our current situation on the weekend, but yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're moving into the ordinances now. Madam Clerk, these ordinances aren't labeled as far as I can see. Are they for first reading or second reading?
The ordinance number 2020-3 is for first reading, title only. 2020-4 is also for title only. And as well as, that's it. Those two. Both for first reading or title only.
Okay, thank you. All right, before we move into voting for this ordinance, I just want to read it first. This is an ordinance. This is 2020-3, an ordinance changing appropriate authority. This is by title only, and this is whereas NJSA 40A:14-118 provides for the establishment of an appropriate authority whom the chief of police shall be directly responsible to, and whereas section 116-2 B1 of the Code of the Borough of Pennsgrove states that the chief of police shall be directly responsible to the appropriate authority for the day-to-day operation of the police department. Pursuant to policies established by said appropriate authority, and whereas section 116-B-2, B1 further states that the mayor shall be the appropriate authority, and whereas the governing body has determined that the appropriate authority shall be changed from the mayor to the police committee, which is authorized pursuant to New Jersey statute 40A, colon 14-118. Now therefore, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the Borough of Pennsgrove that section 116-2B1 of the Code of the Borough of Pennsgrove shall be changed to read that the appropriate authority shall be the police committee. Now, I want to be clear that I do not support this ordinance. This is a bad idea. My reasons were discussed last month. In the middle of a pandemic during national crisis, removing my authority is unusual, and I personally think it's unnecessary. We can go on to vote for this ordinance. Is there a motion?
Well, Mayor, with all due respect, we're just, this ordinance is just on for the first reading, so it would just be a motion to adopt by title only. Then at the next meeting, it would be a public hearing open to the public for comment, closed, and then motion to adopt or not.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to adopt? And this is the first reading?
Yes.
Okay, motion to adopt first reading.
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Mayor, what they're saying.
I'm sorry, we cannot understand.
The charge
What a joke.
Councilman, first, before we move on, I want to say something. Now, doing these Zoom meetings, it's new for a lot of people. Okay, so I would ask that instead of getting frustrated with Councilman Berkut, I would ask that someone from council, and if someone can't do it, I'd be happy to do it. Someone from council work with Mr. Berkut and show him how this works instead of getting upset with him and getting frustrated. We're all here to support each other. And again, this is new. So we need to be supportive of one another. So I ask that someone from council work with Mr. Berkut. And again, if no one can do that, I will be happy to do it. We don't have to decide who that person is going to be right now, but I just want to put that out there. All right, so we haven't heard a second. So the motion is dead.
I had a question on the issue. Is I possibly like to see a change where the mayor is on the committee, and that would give a more brains to address issues.
You mean for me to be present at the committee meetings? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Where you have
an
input with the committee.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that for the simple fact that if I'm present, then that makes a quorum.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So how it's set up now is that Chief Riley, he reports to me directly. The police committee works with Chief Riley in getting things done and passed. So that's how it works right now. But again, yeah, I can't attend their meetings because it would make a quorum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, so I want this off the table to be clear. Okay. Moving on, let's see, is that the only ordinances we have? Okay, we have another ordinance, yeah. 2020-4, this is an ordinance appropriating the sum of $24,000 to be used for acquisition of various computer equipment, including computers, software, and other related items within the Borough of Pennsgrove. and County of Salem, State of New Jersey. And this is just title only. So Madam Clerk, this is just for the record, this is the first reading of this title, correct?
It is. It is. She's not answering. I can tell you at the first reading.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
No problem.
Yes, it is first reading.
All right. Motion, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
By title only, right?
Yes,
Right.
by title only.
Yes.
So there is a motion. Okay, is there a
That's
second?
for computers for council.
Yes, it's actually a technology upgrade for the entire borough, including council.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's to help us move on to get out of the Stone Ages. And whatever platform we use, I just want everyone to know that we will definitely have training so that we'll all be well aware of how to use one of the programs is Office 365. So we'll be trained in using that. So I don't want anyone to get nervous and think that this is going to be some big technology upgrade and no one's going to know how to use this equipment, because I will make sure that everyone is set up for success and that we're all well versed in how to use our new computers, etc. All right, so was there a motion to adopt? I didn't catch that.
We didn't get a second.
Okay, we need a second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Brickute? Ms. Mincy?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yes.
Mr. Washington?
Abstain.
All right, motion approved. Okay. Moving on to appointments. Richard Rivera will be appointed to, we have a vacant seat open on the planning board, so he will be appointed to the planning board. Edward Ramsey is appointed as housing official.
Damn it.
Are there any
Questions?
questions? Yes, go ahead.
What other candidates were there for the planning board?
None. He's the only person that submitted for it.
Does Mr. Rivera live in Pensgrove?
Yes, he does.
Was the position advertised?
For a seat on the planning board?
I mean, yeah,
How do people know that
Yeah.
they were going to apply for that position? Because I know that there's a few people that would like to get on there, but I don't think they knew it was open.
Well, there's another seat open too. So if those folks want to apply for the planning board, then they have to fill out the form and they have to turn it into the clerk.
And I'll make sure that you get it, Mark, or I'll send it out to actually all of council, and that way if you know of anybody. And that's for all of the not positions, but the volunteer positions, anytime people are looking to fill a volunteer seat.
Isn't it fair? I'm sorry. Isn't it fair to say that, you know, moving forward and doing things differently and hopefully better, that when people apply for these positions, that the entire council should get a copy of the application and review it, and, you know, before it just comes up on the agenda?
No, I think I think that we should recruit people that want to serve. It's my appointment as mayor, and council. You know, you have your own process. So
Has the planning board reviewed this candidate?
No.
They don't have to. The planning board members are all made by the mayor.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily have a say in it.
We don't have any say, so it doesn't matter.
all right, are there any further questions? All right, moving on to old, new business. Is there any old business?
Yeah, there is one thing, Mayor. We were talking about the parking lot for the fire company, and I've kind of been the point man somewhat. It's not looking very good for me. But I've been trying to push the engineer into accomplishing this task and working with Adam. It's been like pulling teeth with the COVID virus. They were pushing ahead very quickly with it, and then all of a sudden, it like stopped. So I've contacted them. They said there's bids out for the project. I have to contact them again and see whether or not that's been accomplished, and they've identified a contractor.
Okay, thank you. We have also the DOT road grant. Could someone elaborate on that?
That was an email that was forwarded from our engineer to Councilman Oliver, and he had asked me to place it on the agenda. It's that time of the year where roads or streets are supposed to be chosen, and then basically they submit an application, and then we are awarded a contract. But it normally starts with, it should start with the governing body to address the streets of the most concern with regard to being repaved.
Yeah, Triad sent that in to me because they had discovered that there were some additional grants that they might be able to acquire. So that's why I sent it on the agenda.
Well, they did say that Landing Avenue is going to be done next, right? With that, some of that money. I don't know if any other money is available.
They want a list of, basically they're looking for you guys to provide them with a list of streets that you think need to be repaired.
Okay.
That's for next year, right?
Well,
Yes.
it's coming up, the application has to be submitted by July 1st.
Yeah, but I mean, but the work will be done next year.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, then this is actually new business, just to be clear. Old business is things that we've already discussed, and also some of these things should first be discussed in committee, not during the full council meeting. So we have to be mindful of that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Oliver. Moving on to Master Plan Advisory Committee. We need to ask Triad to find grants from banks to support this work, and the committee will lead but not create it. So that's something that we need to do. And is there any, does anyone want to add to this or provide more information about this master plan?
I put this together. I put this write-up together that I sent to everybody. I hope everybody has a copy. It's basically what we've been talking about to develop economics, an economic climate for the township, to possibly have some people come in and invest in building or invest in the township. And it's kind of like the primary goal in my mind of how we can make this town go forward. So it was just a brief write-up that I put together that would kind of kick off something that would maybe stimulate a small committee within the council or within 2 or 3 people in the borough to be heading up and then seeking out grants and professional services to be able to take it the next step.
Okay. Mr. Oliver, can you make a motion to create a committee? I'd actually like non-council members on the committee. Can you make a motion to create this? I like non-council members on it too, I should say, in addition to council members.
Yeah, I make a motion to create a advisory committee to create a master plan advisory recommendation.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, so okay, so can we have, so that's the motion. Can we have a second?
A second.
Can I just ask one question? This isn't dealing with our master plan. You're talking more about a financial or economic advisory group. Is that right? And
Yes.
the reason I ask is the master plan is the purview of the planning board, so I don't want to cross.
No, we can name it something different. It's an Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Now, with this committee, how is this committee going to be picked? Is council going to have any say so on this, or like how are they going to be picked?
Well, I think that whoever wants to volunteer for it should volunteer for it, and then the council should vote on who those members should be. That's my opinion.
I think we ought to put it on the website
Just asking. All right.
so we get a wide spectrum of people.
All right, so did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burkett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
All right. The economic motion approved. The Economic Development Advisory Committee has been created. As mayor, I will use my authority to appoint 2 committees.
And this is, I just.
Councilmember Coot, you're breaking up again. I would like to request that you call Ms. Mincy on her phone so that we can. Councilmember Coot, you're breaking up and we can't understand you, so you're gonna have to call Carol Mincy on the phone. Can you do that, please?
Try to call. The cell phone is off. It's turned off.
All right, well,
He's getting some kind of reverberation or something.
yeah. It can also be where his house is located. I know sometimes if it depends on if you've got a lot of trees around, it sounds like his reception's real choppy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so we'll figure out a solution for Councilmember Coot for the next meeting. Okay, so as I mentioned, I will.
Jesus God.
Sounds like a Cleon.
As mayor, I will use my authority to appoint 2 committees. I will give council 3 picks to be submitted. I'll give council 3 picks to be submitted by June 12th. Okay, and myself as mayor, 3 picks. Council, you'll have 3 picks, and myself as mayor, I'll have 3 picks, and we'll submit these by June 12th. My first pick for the redevelopment committee is Mr. Burkut, who I asked to be the chairman. Do you accept?
I think we should wait until everybody gets nominated and then vote on it on the date that you mentioned. Do we have a meeting on June 12th? How are you going to make that decision?
Or are we just submitting names now, or how are we doing this?
Well, I'm giving you, if you have names, that's fine, but I'm saying that I'm giving you all till June 12th. Council will get 3 picks. I will get 3 picks. And one of my picks I am picking now, which is Mike Burkut to be the chairman. So that's one of my picks. Now, all council appointments will be submitted to and also approved by Council President Carol Mincy.
No, sorry. It should be approved by the council.
Mr. Telsey?
Yes.
How does this work?
Typically, unless the ordinance speaks specifically to it, new committees are created and filled by a majority of the council.
Okay, but
But,
as
I
mayor,
mean, if you guys want to come up with a plan as to how to fill this committee, you could do it. The only thing that was done was the committee was created.
okay, so let me ask this question. What makes this committee different than any other committee? That I choose the chairs and I pick the committee members. What makes this committee any different than the other committees that we already have? Why is this committee different?
This question has come up before, and the other committees that are in place have been handled that way, where the mayor makes the appointments since before I've been in Pensgrove. So we've always dealt with that as past practice dictates how those committees are filled. But this is a brand new committee, and in my tenure in Pensgrove, we've had other committees be created, and I can't remember off the top of my head which ones, but they've been created, and they were typically filled by a consent of the council.
Okay. All right, so as of the way that things have always been done, I am the mayor, I get to pick committee membership, and if council wants to change the way committees are structured, it can. It can create an amendment to the code if you all want to change the way these committees are structured.
I'd like to say something. When she mentioned that I was going to be the one picking, you hollered no. I don't care who you pick. I'm just glad you're doing this economic development thing. So I have no concern over yes or no or who's on the committee. I'm just glad it's getting done. So if you think I'm going to vote no against somebody, that's not happening. It's getting done. I'm happy.
No, I'm the one that recommended it. I'm just saying I think that the due process should be the council should make the decision and not one person. I don't have anything against you, Carol, et cetera. It's just, you know, I thought that normally the majority of the council would vote on that. That's all.
Okay, I just want to make it plain. I'm just glad it's getting done.
So, Mayor, you recommended that Councilman Percute be the chairperson, which is fine. Is there an assistant chairperson to this committee, or it just goes to the chair and the board members?
Chair and board members.
Okay. Who would take control or running the meeting if he's unavailable or no longer, you know, if he leaves or whatever?
You know what? You're actually right. So let's do a vice chairman too. We'll have. Yeah.
So would that be one of your picks, or what? Will we have be able to recommend that person?
I would say President Council Mincy can pick. If you're interested.
Say that you want me to pick somebody?
Mm-hmm. You can pick if you're interested.
I think you should pick Mark.
Okay. So then it should be Mark as the vice chair. Mark, are you? Do you accept?
Yeah, but I didn't hear Mike Percute accept.
Well, we won't hear that anyway.
Well,
what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I need to accept, then so does he.
I've been trying to call Mr. Mike, but he has his phone turned off.
Oh.
Okay. Well, for the record, I want to recommend.
I'm sorry, you both were talking and I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Go ahead, Mark.
No, that's not you. That's Mr. Mike trying to talk.
Okay,
Now,
let's
y'all
do this. Let's
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's all work on naming names this month and get started. Okay. So for now,
Yeah, okay. I'm just call Mr. Line. I want to recommend Anjanette Scott to be on that committee. That's one of my picks.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Madam Clerk, are you recording this? You getting this?
Yes. I
Okay.
didn't get to hear all of your picks. I know you said Councilman Burkett, Carol Mincy,
No.
and right, and then you decided against it. Mark Oliver, Councilman Oliver, as vice chair, and yourself, Madam Mayor. Is that what? I just wanted to make sure I got everybody's name.
Carl mentioned Angela Scott, I believe.
Right, Anjanette Scott. I have Carl's nomination.
So the council gets 2 more picks.
Probably one, because I think you were one of them.
No, the mayor recommended that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is taking too long.
We ought to get a couple people that are like in business in Penn
Yes.
Screw to
Yes.
represent, that would,
What I'm saying,
or and a private citizen or so.
what I'm saying is that Councilwoman
Can't hear you.
Councilwoman Mincy actually nominated Mark Oliver. So that's one of the council picks, and I'm fine with that as the vice chair. So I'm fine with that. So that's actually a council pick. So you're right, Councilman Washington. So you guys have one more pick.
I'm sorry. We have one more pick.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I let somebody else pick that. I gave my recommendation.
Okay. All right, great. So we'll move on. I will need more time to pick my other 2. I just wanted to name chairman so the committee starts with leadership. I'll give my other 2 by June 12th. All right. We also have outdoor dining. Can someone, who put that on the agenda? Whoever put that on the agenda, can you give more clarification as to what this is?
I had sent that to Sharon, one of the matters that came across my desk in reference to coronavirus. The governor indicated that they are going to be opening up the state for outdoor dining only, I think within the next couple of weeks. And I read some discussions regarding this and the proper way to do it, especially from a liability standpoint. If we have any interest in restaurants, allowing for restaurants to use the public right-of-ways, namely sidewalks, for outdoor dining, it could create certain liability issues. So what I did is I sent everybody a sample of an agreement that could be used with business owners who want to take advantage of outdoor dining, that they would sign, that would essentially require them to assume liability if somebody is injured or hurt on the sidewalk in their area. Also to provide us with insurance indemnification in the event there's some sort of issue. It's recommended. We don't have a ordinance right now on the books regarding this, and it's recommended, number one, that we do put together an ordinance that would allow for businesses to have outdoor dining, and number two, to incorporate these rules and regulations that, as far as the requiring them to have insurance and things of that nature, into that ordinance. So that was placed on the agenda for tonight for review and discussion if anybody's interested.
Questions? I have a particular I guess, complaint about these businesses that are opening up on the side of Virginia Avenue at any particular time and serving food, and there's crowds of people out there. Would this be particularly applicable to that?
They're under a farmer's market, or farmer's market.
Yeah, that's.
And that was put in place in 2010. It's a seasonal thing from May to October. And he was given a permit, as well as Zotis was given a permit from the county, as well as from Pennscript Borough by me, and as well as LK's soft water ice.
So does he have to have insurance?
He has to abide by all the COVID rules and social distancing. And I know when I rode by there on Friday, they were doing just that.
What about the insurance? What about the insurance that Adam was just speaking of?
That would be something that we would need to have in place. They have that, absolutely. And
That would be, I'm sorry, you broke up. What would you say?
That would be a concern, yes. That's definitely something that should be put in place, probably.
Right now, if somebody gets hurt out there while he's serving food, is it on the borough?
It is, because it's the borough's property.
Then it needs to be shut down until we get the ordinance in place, until they have insurance.
And his complaint is going to be, just to forewarn you, is that why now and why not in the past?
I complained about this in the past before because of the same reason, for insurance purposes.
No, I'm just putting it out there. So I don't have a problem if council is on board with that, pulling their permits, and then I'll refund them their fees.
We're leaving ourselves exposed. We just admitted it in a public meeting that we're exposed.
I'm not debating you, Mark. I'm saying I agree.
How about let me intervene. It hasn't been any problems in the past. I have a problem with just completely shutting them down. Maybe we can have a conversation with them, and we can post some signs. What is the signs you post? Responsible if somebody get hurt or whatever, until we get the insurance in place. But because it's something that we haven't put in place, it is something that could be major. But maybe we can add it to next year or the future contracts, whatever. But as far as just shutting them down now, I don't agree with that. I mean, there hasn't been any problems so far. Pray that it don't be any problems. But for the future, moving on, if we think insurance is necessary, then we can arrange, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind purchasing the insurance for the weeks that's there. And he may even have insurance, but just shutting them down, I think, is not even a good thing to do. We don't have many eateries here in town. He's doing very well, and they're practicing social distance. And so just shutting them down, I don't think that's something we should do. Have them come in and have a conversation with them to explain, our concerns. Is we can do that, but and just handle it in a totally different way. That's my opinion.
Where's this guy actually located? I kind of missed out on that part.
On Virginia Avenue.
Is he like right across from Advanced Auto?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a borough property. Yeah, I remember.
Okay. Before we continue this discussion by detail, this needs to be handled. Like these type of conversations need to be handled best in committee, not during council meetings. But overall, I think safe outdoor eating is a good idea. And I also think that we need to discuss the details of code enforcement and seek guidance from the league or the DCA to ensure public safety, and also make sure that we're following all proper codes. And as I've said earlier, again, these conversations are best in committees and not during council meetings.
What committee meeting would handle that?
We can discuss that and figure out which committee will handle that. But I don't want to have this long conversation right now.
I know. Before you go on to
government services, I believe would handle this. I would think government services would handle this. That committee.
So they're going to pass an ordinance to take care of this by themselves, not the committee, not the council.
we can discuss this, or the Government Services Committee can discuss this further, and whatever steps we need to take further, we'll discuss that with council. But this is not the place to discuss this right now, is what I'm saying.
It's on the agenda. Why wouldn't it be discussed now?
No, he's on the agenda for an additional request he's made, which I was going to read.
All the detailed conversation that we're having right now, we shouldn't be doing this in public. This should be discussed by the committee. Just like with all other things, you have to have committee discussion. That's the appropriate way, how it should be done. It hasn't been done that way in the past, but that's how it should be done, and that's how it's going to be done going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chelsea, for bringing this to our attention.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Madam Mayor, on a related matter, there are some people that have been doing detailing on the old Broadway site, and they also have been selling toys on there. And I actually called the police because it's a borough property and had them to cease and desist because they don't have any permission at all from Borough Council as to doing detailing on Broadway Tire, which is now owned by the borough, or the toy selling too. And I'm just about to put up a no trespassing sign there so the police will enforce it.
Again, this is not the time for that discussion, so please refer to code enforcement or discuss in committee.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I got a question. Do we need to vote on the outdoor dining?
No. There's nothing to actually vote on. I believe it was just excuse me. I believe it was just an idea that Mr.
Who does outdoor dining? Is that referring to the restaurant? So there's only one restaurant that does outdoor dining.
I know, but it was something that was put in by the state, so we still want to make sure.
If it's put in by the state, they still got to follow the state orders, correct? I
I didn't know if it was something we had to vote on to put it in.
Eventually, if you guys want to do that, if you want to permit the outdoor dining because it's impeding the sidewalks, then an ordinance would need to be done. And that's what was sent over for your review.
Okay.
For whenever. If you direct the solicitor to draft the ordinance, then it can be placed on the next meeting agenda.
Right. Again, so we'll assign this to a committee and we'll give the recommendation in July. It's 9:15. I know we're all tired and we all need to move along and get done with this meeting. So we're going to move on to requests.
Mayor, I do have one request and I admitted it during my time to report. Tracy, our police clerk, has been instrumental in keeping the website up to date for me with regards to notices, public notices for meetings and anything else that I've asked her to do. And so I was hoping that council would approve, mayor and council would approve her receiving the deputy's stipend for the time that the deputy is out on leave. It's not an additional expense, it's just paying her the stipend that the deputy is no longer receiving while she's out on leave.
I think we should discuss this in closed session first.
Okay, then we'll.
We refer this to Councilman Washington as the chair of government services.
Okay.
Yeah, she actually. Can I say something real quick, Mayor? She actually spoke with me. That money is already set aside in the budget. She spoke with me already. And she's already done the job. The job is done. So, I don't see why not to just go ahead and allow it, her to get the compensation for it. And that was the same thing I told Mrs. Williams.
If you would discuss her,
I'm sorry?
If you would discuss her performance or her personnel, then yes, we would discuss that in closed session. But if it's a financial issue only, then open session will be appropriate.
I make a motion she receives the funds.
I second.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. We cannot do it this way because the state monitor just told us that, and he's on this call. So we need to identify what is in the budget first. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm just saying we need to identify what is in the budget first, and then discuss it in closed session.
Isn't the money already in the budget?
So let me make this clear. The money is already in the budget. Normally, Kayla will be getting this stipend for doing the job. The job is broken up into 3 persons. Okay, Kayla is out on maternity, so she has been doing Kayla's part and her part. So the funds are already in the budget.
It may still require approval from the DCA. This is the first I'm hearing of it, so I'm not 100% sure if the DCA has to approve this as a waiver or not.
Really?
I just don't know. I haven't looked at it. I'm just hearing this for the first time.
We should also not have personnel issues brought up for the first time in the regular council meeting. We have a CFO and a lawyer, so we need to, at the very least, that there must be a process to do this.
Okay.
Okay.
Just trying to expedite, that's all.
So the work still has to be done. The website still has to be maintained. So I'm hoping that, everyone take in consideration that someone has to do it. Kayla's out on maternity, so it has to be upkept. And Tracy is still doing the work. So, once it's approved, we need to make sure, she gets paid for it. I mean, I don't understand why that has to go to the panel.
Councilman Washington, I'm not saying this because I disagree. I'm just saying we need a better process. That's what I'm pointing out. I'm not saying I disagree because I don't. Because updating that website is difficult and it's a lot of work. And I appreciate Tracy for doing that. So I'm not disagreeing. I agree with that. I'm just saying that we need a better process.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you still have a motion in a second. So are you withdrawing that, or what are we doing?
I'm not withdrawing it.
I apologize. I didn't want this to turn into anything major.
Right. Let's call for a vote.
Okay. Mr. Burkett? Ms. Mincy?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yes.
Mr. Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
I would suggest that this action is subject to approval of the DCA if it's applicable.
Sure.
It's already been approved, Adam.
I know, but like I said, under our MOU, we may need to get a waiver. It may still require approval. We've done this before where you approve it, but it's still subject to DCA approval. And that's my suggestion.
And that's all I'm saying is just we need to follow a process.
Your solicitor is correct. The MOU that the city signed and approved says that any time you give any employee an increase in pay, it requires a DCA waiver approval. I don't have an issue with anything that I heard. What I have an issue with is what the mayor is saying is correct. Your guys are all over the place. There's way too much minutia on this agenda. You should not be surprising each other with things on the agenda. You have subcommittees. Those subcommittees should report out a recommendation. It goes on the agenda. Like, you're all over the place. You have to, the committee should make a, public safety make a recommendation, hire a police officer, change the appropriate authority. The master plan committee can come out of the plan. Like, the subcommittee should advance out a recommendation and then the full committee can debate it and act on it. But to just throw stuff out there and want an instant decision. When I came and I did the introduction for elected officials that the mayor invited us to do, one of the slides was the difference between ready, aim, fire, and ready, fire, aim. Like, you guys have to get ready, You have to aim. You have to have all your ducks in line. Check with your insurance company. Check with your solicitor. Check with the clerk. Then put it on the agenda for action. You want to vote on something, you don't know what the JIF insurance policy is on sidewalks. You didn't get a legal opinion from your solicitor. I think I love that you want to get stuff done and you want to move it quickly and you want to get it done and cut through the red tape. But I just caution, do a little more of the legwork before you list it on an agenda. And it's obvious from some of your conversations that some of the council people didn't even know this stuff was going to be discussed. So that's my bigger concern more than the stipend for the person doing the website. That seems completely legit, but it's not on the agenda. And obviously other people weren't aware of it. So you should try to avoid that if you can.
There hasn't been a process up to this point of even knowing what's on the agenda until a couple days beforehand.
If that.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sasdeli, and we're going to get this right. And I'm glad that council wants to be so active as well. I mean, I may veto this to prove a point, but we have to release ourselves from state control at some point. So we need to have a process in order to deal with issues. We have to stop adding random things on the agenda. We've got to get this right. And when the state monitor talks, we have to listen. That's non-negotiable. We have to listen and we have to act.
I commend you, Ed, for your analysis.
Well, you have the right systems. You have a subcommittee system set up. So for example, you might even want to group your resolutions differently. If public safety gives their report, if there's public safety resolutions, you could come out and say the public safety has reviewed all of these and we're reporting to the full committee that we recommend adoption of R125, R126, R127. Are there any questions? Bam. Then go to the next subcommittee, go to the next subcommittee. If there's something on there that didn't come out of the subcommittee, why is it on there? So you don't have to answer.
Right.
It's just a rhetorical question.
I agree.
I agree, Mr. Sasdeli. One thing I'm going to do is I will definitely look into what the league says about the best way to do these things, and I will definitely get back to council with what I learned. All right. Next on the agenda is payment of bills and approval of bill lists. Can we have a motion?
So was that? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burchett, Ms. Mincy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Pasquale,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
All right. Motion approved. Okay, we're moving on to public session. Before I make a motion to go into public session, I just want to say to the public, if you want to speak, this is a good time to raise your hand. We will limit to 3 minutes. Can I get a motion for public comment, please?
Motion, open public session.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion approved to move into public session. All right, we are now open to public session. James, you raised your hand. Please give your first and last name and your address.
Yes, this is James Payne, 7 Walnut in Penns Grove. I have 2 or 3 questions. I live at 7 Walnut. Behind me is Mitchell Avenue. I've had this building behind me that's a public nuisance. It has no windows. The roof is in the second floor. I got rats. I got rodents running. The people that rent the building back there have no running water or no bathrooms. The smell, it smells terrible. I had to call the police department 3 times this week. It was so bad, the smoke was so bad, I was in the backyard cutting the grass. I had to run all the way up front. I couldn't even breathe. I'm a heart patient. I have vascular disease. I moved to Grove because I thought this would be a perfect place for me to retire. I've been here since 2017, and if I didn't invest all my money, I think this was the biggest mistake of my life. The guy that owns the place told me that I have no rights. He told me that the place has been abandoned for 20 years. His mother-in-law owns it, and they can do whatever they want to do. If I don't like it, for me to move. I come to the council, I come to you guys, and I beg you, can I have a decent life the rest of my life? Like I said, they burn every good day. If it's clear out, they're burning. And they paint cars at night. I just can't, if I open the windows, I can't breathe. And I know good and well, if anybody on council was living where I'm living at now, they wouldn't have it. It wouldn't be acceptable. So I asked the people on council, could you please help me? I've been asking since 2017 for help for this situation that I'm in. When I called the police department, they told me that, I went to the police department and they told me, they said, well, Mr. Payne, it's not our job. I said, well, can you do me a favor and at least help me? They sent 3 cars over, and when they sent the 3 cars over, they had the gate locked. They had the music on so loud that when they finally got into the gate, he had to bang on the bus to get the guy to turn the music down. For the last 6 months, I've been going to Mount Zion Baptist Church. And when I come home from church, I can't even sit down and have lunch. I could never, Memorial Day, they played music to 3 o'clock in the morning. My pursuit of happiness, I don't have it. Like I said, anytime that they burn 2 fireplaces every day, every good day, and the smoke is so bad that if I slip up and don't close my windows before they start burning, everything in the house smells like smoke. Like I said, I can't understand. And then the building on Broad Street that's attached to this building, it's been this way for 20 years. And I can't understand why. Well, the guy told me, he said, look, Mr. Payne, you come from Pennsylvania, you come over here. You're not going to come over here and change anything. He said, we own this building and we'll fix it when we want to fix it. Now, when the borough sold those 3 lots, those 3 garages on Mitchell Avenue, the new owners came in with dumpsters and cleaned up everything, all in like 4 days. And this guy right here sat there and watched them, and he don't have to do anything.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
First, I want to say to you, thank you for sharing. And before anyone says anything, I want to be clear that someone will call you by tomorrow evening, and we'll check out the situation, the situations ourselves. But we will not have that discussion about this right now, but I hear you loud and clear. And this is a good example for why we need a process for how to deal with problems like this and a staff that we can hold accountable. This is also an example for why we need better service agreements. So Mr. James, again, we hear you loud and clear, and we will definitely be in touch with you, and someone will definitely check this out.
Thank you very much. And
thank you so much.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Before we move on to the next person, I just wanted to give you instructions on how to raise your hand. To raise your hand, you have to click on participants first. And when you click on participants, you'll see a little icon that shows your hand. You'll click that, and it'll allow you to actually raise your hand, okay? The next person that I see that raised their hand is Charlene Martin.
Great. Great.
Yes, actually,
Greg Martin. Okay. How you doing, Mr. Martin?
I'm doing well. I'm actually cheating
State
on
your
her.
address.
46 Spruce Street, Penns Grove, New Jersey. Good evening. I just got a couple of questions wrote down while I was following along on a meeting, which is a very long meeting, but nevertheless, I got a question for Lou. He mentioned something about boarding up houses and the cutting of the lawns, but he didn't mention who's doing this work. Is that our Cornish Point doing this work, or is that somebody else doing this work?
No, they're Penns Grove employees. They do it part-time.
Penns Grove employees that's doing it part-time?
Yep.
So they actually work for the borough then?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
We've been doing it for a few years, and we just continued it.
Just continued it. Who are they?
I don't know if I can mention her names in the session or not.
If they are borough employees and they're getting paid from the residents' taxpayers' money, why wouldn't you be able to mention their names?
Just because of privacy. I don't know.
Say their names.
Adam would have to address that.
You can mention their names or.
Can I mention them? Okay. Well, one is Floyd. Another one is James Robinson, and the third one is DeMonte.
DeMonte Holden?
Which for last name, I can't remember it.
Yes, DeMonte Holden, that's his name.
Thanks, Carl. Who's the other people, Carl, since Lou is actually, it seemed like he doesn't know him, but I do know DeMonte.
Mr. Martin, we started this program like 3 years ago, I think, and it's like a summer job during the grad season, and they come in every year and they take care of the borough-owned properties.
Thanks, Carl. One of the reasons why I'm asking, I don't know. I know DeMonte, very good kid, so I'm not concerned as much with the who as I am as maybe some of these opportunities can be going out to Penns Grove residents. I don't know if this was advertised. I don't know. It just seems like they've been doing it for a while and we've been sticking with the same people, but anytime we can put our residents to work, it seemed like that would be a good thing. I just, I don't know that whole process, but I was
we have 3 people right now. If we need to expand, then we'll probably offer the job on Penns Grove's website. But we just rehired the guys that have been doing it the last few years.
Okay. I think that process probably should be looked at.
All right, Mr. Martin, I hear you again. I hear you loud and clear as well.
I'm gonna go past that. One other thing that I want to address.
And you got to make it quick because you're already at 3 minutes.
Well, Mr. James looked like he took 10. So I maybe I can come get about 5. Okay, but as far as Mr. Barnes go with Zogies, I see with the request on here, the letter he submitted, was that read tonight?
No.
No.
I didn't know he submitted one.
Because I do know personally, first of all, Ezell Barnes is a very good guy. He started from the ground up. And he has, and I'm very well aware of this, he has over $1 million some policy. You don't be in the vendor business cooking food and don't have insurance. So the mere fact of someone would even threatening to shut him down is blows my mind. But I know he's traveled from place to place, so he does have insurance. So I don't even know where that came from.
Greg, this is Mr. Oliver. There was an ordinance. There was an item discussed by the solicitor around what the state was mandating for vendors that have businesses around insurance, insurance requirements. That's the only reason it was brought up.
Yeah, well, I mean, the young man has insurance and his business is doing very well. He's bringing people from outside of this area into Penns Grove. And I'm sure other stores, gas stations, and other places are also benefiting from Mr. Barnes having his business here right now. And I do know for a fact that he even offered the borough to pay them some kind of fee for his days of use on borough-owned property. So that's revenue that could be coming in to our little town.
Let me just say one thing. First, I'm going to ask members to be recognized before speaking. You can't just start talking. You got to be recognized before speaking. We got to get order with this meeting. That's number one. Number two, as I mentioned, Greg, all your points, I hear them, and they will be addressed. And I definitely thank you for your comments. I thank you for your time. And as I mentioned, you are now over your limit, and we've got to cut this short.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate your input and your questions, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't see any more. Let's see. Charlene, did you have any questions?
That was Greg coming in.
That was just Greg? Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
You do.
Just speak up.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Hello. This is Sue Oliver. Is it okay for me to be? I have something to say.
Yes, please state your address, and you get 3
20
minutes.
Church Street.
Oliver.
I'm sorry.
I said state your address, please, and you also get 3 minutes.
Okay, 20 Church Street. I just had something to say on the thing that Greg was just talking about. I don't have an issue at all with the gentleman being up there, but I do have a concern about the parking on across the street from where he is, because I went down, I guess it's Willis Street the other day, and came to the stop sign at Virginia Avenue, and it's like taking your life into your hands trying to get out of there. The cars were parked all the way up to the, to the road. And I mean, you know how Virginia Avenue is anyway. So I feel as though there shouldn't be any parking on that side of the highway, because it's, somebody's going to get killed up there. There was a whole line of cars on the opposite side, on the same side where he's selling this stuff, all the way down Virginia Avenue, and that's fine, but it is definitely a hazard having people park across the street with that side street, trying to come out of Willis. I think it's Willis.
Yes.
Yes, it's Willis. So because that's you're actually illegally parked there because there's a resident there, we can have it backed up, but we really can't stop anyone from parking there, because the residents that live there can actually park their cars out there, and their company can park their cars. But there is a certain amount of feet that you have to be back from the road so you can.
That's right.
And I agree with that part. So maybe we can just either cone it or put a sign out there or something, just so they can be back out, so everyone can be safe coming out, turning in and out. But as far as banning parking out there, period, that's something we can't do because it's actually a residential area.
Right. And I understand that. I wasn't even sure if there was even parking allowed on that side.
Yeah,
but
it actually is.
The cars were parked all the way up to, like, right to the corner of Willis. I mean, I had to actually, almost be out into Virginia Avenue to, to try to see around the vehicle. And it probably made it worse too, because it was like a bigger SUV. So it wasn't, just a sedan. So that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Also, again, I'm going to reiterate it again. Please be recognized before speaking out. I'm really trying to get better at adhering to Robert's Rules of Order, and we are already over 3 hours. So I'm going to reiterate that again. If any council member wants to speak, please ask to be recognized before speaking. Are there any other questions from the public? All right. Thank you very much, everyone who came up to ask questions. We really appreciate your engagement. All right, now I will, is there a motion to close public session?
Question.
Motion.
All right, second.
Question.
No questions right now. I'm closing public session, Mark.
You can't close it. The committee has to close it.
No, I'm the chair, so I can make a motion to close it. I'm requesting a motion to close it.
I just had a question about something that was discussed in the meeting about June 12th.
Mark, they're not adjourning the meeting, they're just closing the public session.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
All right,
There's
thanks.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chelsea. There's no questions on the closing public session. That's Robert's rule.
Motion to close the public session.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion to approve to close public session. All right. Mr. Oliver, you had any questions?
Yeah, that June 12th date, does that still hold, or are we just going to go with the next meeting?
If you have them by our next meeting, that's fine. I'm just giving you June 12th as to give you time to pick your picks.
Okay, thank you.
I want everyone named by the 12th, if that makes sense. That's what I'm saying.
Well, for these recommendations, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for the redevelopment committee.
Oh, okay. June 12th, okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
That's it.
All right.
Motion
to adjourn. Is there a
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there
Motion.
a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion approved to adjourn this meeting. Thank you everyone for coming out.